6:44 on this Friday. It's Friday. Sometimes you forget that it is, and here it is. We made it. We hear a lot about these issues of gun control and Second Amendment rights, but what we don't really hear enough about is what it costs the firearms industry, which is an over $31 billion industry for the U.S. economy. Well, Edwin Walker, he's the program attorney at the U.S. Law Shield. He's here to talk about what they really go through. Edwin, thank you for joining us this evening.
Yes, I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good. Yeah, great having you on. It's been a while since we talked. Now, when we talk about what happens, especially at the firearms, the shop owners, how much regulation are they facing nowadays?
Well, there is, there has been some anecdotal evidence that they are under increased scrutiny with regard to, basically the ATF. Utilizing the resources that they have. I've actually read a contrasting article that says no, they're not up, but like I said, anecdotally we're hearing a lot more about ATF agents coming in, and of course anytime you're dealing with government agents, some are good, some are bad, but usually the average an ATF audit of records can take weeks and weeks.
Right.
So these ATF agents will come in and plant themselves at a gun store for, days and weeks at a time.
And they've got to keep records, for like 20 years or so?
Yes, they have to keep all their records on file for 20 years. And the form that's, of course, most commonly used in a transaction, is used for every Gun Control Act transaction, is called the 4473. And it contains over 100 different pieces of information. And the thing about it is that information has to be meticulously recorded, every single little bit of it.
It's a six-page report. It's a six-page form, right?
Well, it contains about 2.5 pages of actually written material.
Okay.
The other pages are instructions.
And so that has to be filled out accurately by the gun purchaser then?
The gun purchaser, and then it has to be rechecked by the dealer, because a lot of times if people use abbreviations when the information on their driver's license is not abbreviated, right, or they have to put all the correct information that's on their driver's license, including heights and weights and things like that.
And if that is inaccurate, what's the penalty for the gun shop owner?
Well, if it's inaccurate, then it gets written down as a violation. And if a gun store has enough violations that the ATF agent in charge of the audit determines it to be a problem, then they can write them up and then do a re-audit of the situation of that gun store thereafter.
Well, it sounds like they'd get into quite a mess there. So how does that compare to what's happening?
Well, imagine it as the IRS of guns. And so, obviously nobody likes the IRS. Nobody likes an IRS audit. They basically are bureaucrats that will look for these little technical errors. And so, unfortunately, obviously a gun store's lifeblood is their license, and the ATF holds it over their head.
Yeah, they can just pull it from them, I'm guessing. I'm talking to Edwin Walker with U.S. Law Shield. How does this compare to what's happening at gun shows, though?
I'm sorry.
I mean, you're talking. So we have these gun shops that are being closely monitored, watched. There's a form that's 4473 form. So how does that make sense then? If we have gun shows, is there any process at all like this at the gun shows?
Yeah, most vendors at gun shows are licensed dealers, and so regardless of where the transaction takes place, that all those procedures have to be followed.
Right. At a gun show, though, is it more likely to be able to sell a gun without having to do any of this?
No, only an individual can do that. Like I said, if you go to a gun show, individuals are usually don't set up tables and sell their wares at gun shows. Gun shows, you usually have to have a lot of inventory. You got to pay you got to pay the fee to the person who's putting on the gun show, and so the vast majority of people who are selling guns at gun shows are in fact licensed dealers who are under the scrutiny of having to do, get the 4473, do the background check, et cetera, et cetera. So this gun show loophole that everybody talks about is largely a myth.
Yeah, so, but you're saying it only happens when there are individuals selling, but individuals do sell guns at the shows, right?
Oh, that's correct. Individuals sell guns, they sell guns virtually anywhere. I mean, it's just a part of private American commerce. Mm-hmm. So, an individual who wants to sell a gun, let's say he's got, I've got this Glock, I've got 3 of them, I really don't need this one, I'm a little short on cash. Well, where are you going to find a mass of people who want to buy a Glock? It's usually going to be a gun show.
Right. I mean, is it a bit strange that an individual can sell with simply doing so without any checks, and meanwhile we're scrutinizing every last letter of gun shop owners?
I don't know that it's unusual. The thing is that if you engage in a commercial activity of selling firearms, then you have to have a license. Mm-hmm. And so a private seller, if it comes to light to the ATF that a private seller is selling 20, 30, 40 guns a month, the ATF is going to come after them for basically engaging in a commercial activity without a license.
And then obviously their position is they want to know where these, they want to have information in case the guns are used in a crime. Is that essentially it?
Well, certainly they do, and that's what we usually advise people. We get calls often about people asking, what are the requirements for a private person selling a gun? There are no requirements really, because it's still a private intrastate transaction, and so as such it doesn't really involve any federal laws. States may choose to regulate sales. Here in Texas, for example, there is no regulation with regard to sales, but what we always advise is that if somebody is selling a gun that they did at one time, was purchased from a licensed dealer, we always advise that they only sell it to somebody that they get their information from, that they create their own sort of homemade bill of sale, and they keep that on record, because if that gun ever gets researched,
it'll go right back to them. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, they need something that they can show the police to say, look, here's the proof that I didn't own that gun last week whenever that liquor store was robbed, because I sold it 3 years ago to this person.
That is Edwin Walker, program attorney for U.S. Law Shield. Edwin, great having you on. Thank you.